Hello, and welcome to In the Lab with Jennifer. Today I have two special guests, Tripp Keber, Dixie Elixirs.
Hello, Jennifer.
How are you doing, Tripp?
Excellent.
And Shalene, you will have to say her last name.
Sumori.
And Shalene Samori, who is, let's see, how long have you headed up the science team now at Dixie?
Since the end of August.
Since the end of August, so.
Seasoned veteran.
Kinda.
That's cat years.
Cat years. Do cats have years? I knew they have lives, but I didn't know they had years. Anyway, so we're going to be discussing all great things that are going on at Dixie, and more importantly, Shalene and what she's done and kind of where Dixie's going forward. And then I'd like to talk a little bit about Colorado running out of pot. I mean, do you think it's going to happen? Because people are taking bets on that, it's serious.
Yes, I can expound more on that later, but
okay.
I do believe that the demand is going to be greater than the supply.
Already. It's going to be very interesting. I don't even know. So 10, 12 are going to be ready for rec January 1st?
Yeah, I attend most recently an industry event. Probably 30 to 40 retailers here in the state of Colorado, and all indications suggest that there'll probably be no more than 12 recreational marijuana centers in the month of January 2014, wow. Serving potentially hundreds of thousands of consumers in addition to the medical marijuana patients. So it's incredibly exciting, but obviously daunting as a cannabis business owner as to how we're going to deal with that.
Yes. I know that I've talked to a few, and they just think that they'll be open 1 or 2 days a week, and then, wish for the best. I don't know. It's going to be nuts. But the funny thing is Colorado and all the rest of the states are so worried about there's going to be too much, and it's just funny. They have no clue how much cannabis is consumed.
Yeah, I think again, attending the most recent industry event, I think the biggest concern for business owners, particularly retail marijuana centers, is how they're going to be dealing specifically with the crowd control, be cognizant of public safety issues. These are individuals likely with money in hand, potentially embarrassing to say cash because of the industry that we're dealing with. And then, in one area, if it's an industrial warehouse community, not a big deal. But if you're in the midst of a residential community, you have to be very cognizant of that. And so everything that I've witnessed amongst my peers within the industry is that they're very focused on that. And so they're working with local law enforcement, meaning Denver Police Department, working with local commanders to make sure that there's the appropriate crowd control, public safety issues implemented in advance of Jan 1, when potentially there will be lines with hundreds of people, both from within the state of Colorado and outside, marijuana tourists, that want to have a relationship with the plant.
Sure. Yeah, like I said, we're taking polls, and I said Colorado would be out of pot, recreationally, in the first 5 days. I think that's my guess.
Yeah, I've seen some of that on social media. The good news is prices will likely increase, which is good for our industry, very much needed. We're excited that testing is now going to be implemented as an industry. Incredibly massive milestone, a watershed moment, I really believe, and thanks in part to you, Jennifer and Steve, what you guys do at Can Labs. We're really excited because I'm sure this is going to be a big boon for your business as well.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's definitely going to be a sustaining.
Much needed.
Much needed. Yes. So we're looking forward to it. We've seen an increase of business, people trying to get ahead of the curve, figure it out, get their batching in order and all of that kind of stuff, which is great. But let's talk about you and what did you study? What were you doing before? How'd you feel about cannabis, and how'd you get to Dixie?
Wow, that's a lot of information all at once.
Sorry.
In 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, in 2 minutes. Just
Sum
kidding.
your life up.
You have plenty of time.
Right. Oh, my gosh. Well, I am, my name's Shalene Samori. I am the science director at Dixie, and I have been there since the end of August and just super excited to be part of a dynamic industry such as this. My background is in cell and molecular biology. I have a minor in chemistry, and I have about 2.5 years of research experience as well to piggyback on that. I have done some research projects for NASA, and so have a pretty hefty science background.
Wow, NASA. How exciting. So how did you feel when you got a job at NASA?
It was probably one of the most exciting days of my life. I have to tell you, I didn't work directly for NASA. I was funded independently by grants through NASA. So having
Even better.
Right, having that money come through is pretty exciting.
Wow. And so exactly what did you do at NASA? What were some of the things you did?
The first involvement I had with the grant program at NASA came through a school I was going to. And there was a grant that came through the university, and I was advised to go ahead and write a proposal and see if I could do some research I was interested in with NASA. And so I wrote the proposal. Thankfully, It was accepted. From there, I was asked to go speak at a national conference. And there I was offered additional launch platforms. I came back to Colorado with kind of hat in hand, looking for money to fund these projects that I desperately wanted to do. And thankfully was able to secure funding and hire a team and build and test all the launch research projects that we were doing at that time. So after the second one, I actually did a third. And
wow, that's exciting. So you got to do everything. Like build the proposal. Saw it. That's amazing. Not a lot of people get that opportunity. That's for sure.
It was really educational to have to write not only the proposal for funding, but the proposal to NASA to be perused by their engineering team and their safety team, to hire a team and manage multiple disciplinary teams, and to get to build and actually test and fly these projects. It was amazing.
It's interesting because if you look at Shalene's career pathing, I think there's some great analogies that potentially could be made as our industry begins to mature. Jennifer, I know nobody appreciates that more than you as you've built your lab, gaining access to the appropriate analytics and obviously understanding how a formal lab operates. We all believe that this industry is really starting to mature, although it's still in its nascent stages. So we believe that we can take what Shalene has learned through her past experiences, her professional history, and implement that, not only for the betterment of Dixie, which obviously is a focus, but also for the betterment of our industry, helping write proposals or grants that will allow both industry veterans, people like yourself and other new emerging cannabis entrepreneurs to go out and get access. Not tomorrow, because we're just focusing on working on banking issues. But as the industry matures, really be able to go out and get potentially funding that would otherwise be provided to us in past years.
Absolutely. And being, I have a degree in microbiology, so I consider myself science friendly. Not a microbiologist, even though technically I am, but that has got to be that'll be one of the most incredible days once somebody we know or run circles with gets the first grant.
Sure. Yeah.
I know the NIH, I thought they just handed out, is it an RFP then? To get information back to see if they choose somebody, but it was regarding something with marijuana, but I can't remember. But somebody from Skaggs here at Anschutz was telling me about it, and that was gigantic. And then Connecticut, right? Isn't Connecticut getting some kind of money to look at testing for contaminants in a less expensive way for marijuana? I think that's. I think I just saw that as well, which would be huge because some of these tests are extremely expensive.
Yeah, you're looking at, and it's baby steps, Jennifer. But the state of New Jersey recently, through their economic development program, was able to provide capital to some cannabis entrepreneurs there in the state. I think it was just in excess of $750,000, and so that's a pretty compelling point of inflection within our industry to see a state government agency investing in an industry that is illegal at the federal level, and certainly with the update of the Ogden memo in August of this past year, it gave us all a massive sigh of relief, and there's really a roadmap. And so I think you'll start to see, assuming that this science experiment goes well in Colorado and Washington State,
Yes.
That we adhere to the 8 tenets that the federal government has laid out, certainly which talks about testing of medical marijuana and packaging and labeling, protecting our most valuable asset, that of the children, building a model that is self-sustaining, create a revenue base, a tax base that allows us to go out and hire regulators that will ensure that marijuana businesses are compliant, is incredibly important. It's really what our industry has been built on here in the state of Colorado, and I think you're now seeing that being implemented in new states like Washington, where there was a lot of a gray market. We both know that. But the industry is maturing at a very, very rapid pace, and I think it's going to be better not only for medical marijuana patients that may be listening, but certainly the adult use community here in Colorado and of course, Washington State.
Definitely. And I think you'll see more and more patients. I do. I think as the science progresses and as more people maybe have a personal experience or something like that, I believe that more people will get educated and choose cannabis over some of the pills and other treatments. I know, as I talked about, my dad just had prostate cancer. And he got it taken out, and everything's fine now. But some of the treatments they were proposing were, hormone therapy, where they literally take all your testosterone out of your body.
Yeah.
I can't even, that alone would be just devastating.
Well, the damaging effect certainly from, we'll put alcohol aside because it's very polarizing, but, opiates, everybody can wrap their arms around how damaging opiates are. There's no doubt one of the 4 of us in this room has either had a family member or a friend that's probably been damaged from opiates. I don't need to sell to you the medicinal benefits, but you're talking about marijuana refugees coming to the state of Colorado. Your contemporary, Josh Stanley, in his realm of caring, he's getting exposure through TEDx. Sanjay Gupta's infomercial for the medical marijuana industry. These are all very, very compelling data points that are opening the eyes of both consumers, at bare minimum to create a new level of wellness, or potentially to recreate with cannabis as opposed to alcohol. But then when you talk about the powerful, compelling statistics as it relates to epilepsy or Dravet syndrome, where you're seeing just incredibly massive success rates, ultimately the federal government is going to engage in professional clinical studies that we as an industry will say, see, we told you so, but mainstream medical communities, doctors, nurse practitioners will be able to really embrace and get their arms around and begin to implement, be sort of what I would describe as a slingshot effect, and probably as early as late 2014, but probably in 2015, 16 as we approach the next federal elections.
Yes, I truly believe it's already going so fast. And then if one of these agencies or whatever, NIH or anything, does do a clinical trial, and of course it's going to end up, especially if it's seizures or something like that, that will break the anecdotal barrier that they all, because everybody wants to jump on, well, it's all anecdotal. Well, sorry, it's not. But, the United States either keeps that important data to themselves, or you have to look elsewhere like Israel or something like that. But you can't, you can only hide the propaganda for so long until people are like, and especially when Sanjay Gupta comes out and says.
It may be anecdotal here in the United States because we don't have the stamp of the FDA, but you are seeing other countries that are as innovative and advanced as the United States with respect to their medical communities, and that is not anecdotal. And so what works in Israel could very well and likely work here in the United States. It's just a function of where we are as a people state. Clearly the momentum is in favor of medical marijuana, and as again we approach the 2015-16 elections, and I say this having just come from a marijuana policy project board meeting on Friday in Washington, D.C., the polling data is incredibly compelling as it relates to the change of mind within the United States, quickly approaching what I would describe as a tipping point.
Now, let me ask you this. So how, because we're immersed in it, a lot of stuff I take for granted, and I have to, pinch myself that I'm so lucky that I live in Colorado. But let's say somebody is listening, speaking of MPP, somebody's listening in some of these states that aren't legal. What do you think they can do to help move this forward? Do they go to MPP, make a donation, volunteer? What are some of the things that you would tell somebody to get involved in?
Sure. Well, obviously, selfishly, as a board member of Marijuana Policy Project, which I believe is to be one of the preeminent marijuana reform organizations in the country, if not the world, 20 plus years of practical experience. Rob Campia, a polarizing figure within our community. What you cannot take away from him is he's a brilliant strategist. We have several billionaires that have backed our organization, including the late Peter Lewis, founder of Progressive Insurance, one of the most prolific donors within our organization. But it is absolutely groups like mpp.org, shameless plug there, in which you can go and you can donate monies. They were certainly a driving force behind Sensible Colorado and legalizing adult use marijuana here in the state of Colorado. And we're, likely going to put ourselves out of jobs at MPP, not necessarily me, but we believe unequivocally in the next potentially as little as 6 years that we'll have the federal capitulation. It could potentially be earlier. But then there are also local organizations. Certainly as a business owner in the cannabis, you should subscribe to something like a medical marijuana industry group. There are the Students for Sensible Drug Policy, which has been really credited with creating so many of the leading cannabis entrepreneurs in our community, both here in the state of Colorado and elsewhere. And then you have certainly the preeminent, which is Normal. That's obviously been around for as long, if not longer.
1970, the year I was born.
Oh, wow. So let's not date ourselves.
Well.
But, these are all organizations that are starting to collaborate. We saw that here in Colorado in the month of early November, where we had the DPA, the Drug Policy Alliance. And cannabis is going mainstream. And each and every day you can find dozens of national media outlets that are promoting and highlighting organizations that are assisting. And ultimately, and really to tie it back to your question, who is Shalene, is that's giving us exposure to best of breed scientists and operators, formulators, at the end of the day, people to run our businesses because it's becoming more acceptable socially. Certainly in the community that we operate, Jennifer, it's very normal to possess marijuana or potentially have a relationship with it and be public. Heck, even be arrested, and you're not necessarily alienated, as evidenced by my practice 6 months ago. But it is able to track somebody that has a relationship with a national organization like NASA because of what is taking place in the media and within our fine states, and it's exciting.
And we'll have to take a break right now, but let's think about how many companies that may turn their head, but throughout these years are going to become friendly with it. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Cannapunch is a delicious and effective medical marijuana beverage proudly made right here in Colorado. Each bottle is freshly infused with 100% pure flower extract from the highest grade marijuana plants available today. Using proprietary extraction methods, every bottle of Cannapunch is consistently and reliably infused with an exact milligram dosage that you can count on to relieve your symptoms each and every time. Cannapunch is delicious. There's never any medicine-y taste. We use only 100% cannabis flowers. No trim or byproducts are ever used in Cannapunch. It does not require refrigeration and comes in convenient, resealable multi-dose bottles from 60 milligrams to 200 milligrams. We have drinks with dosage that works best for you. Cannapunch is available in a variety of delicious flavors like black cherry, watermelon, pineapple mango, and blue raspberry. And we now have strain-specific beverages available just for you. Cannapunch is delicious, convenient, consistent, and effective. Give it a try and experience the Cannapunch difference. Ideal 420 soil is preloaded to perfection with all your nutrient, microbial, and biostimulant needs. It's compatible with all strains and is good for a 22-week grow cycle from seed to harvest. This product is 100% organic and gives your marijuana that awesome aroma and smooth taste we all desire. Ideal 420 Technologies is well grounded in soil chemistry, soil physics, and microbial biology, making them the most advanced soil company in the marijuana industry. They do the science so growers can focus on what truly matters, the plants themselves. No more mixing and feeding of expensive nutrient lines, supplements, and foliar sprays. Not to mention, the company is prideful in being the most consistent soil product that has yet to hit the market. Due to the results when using Ideal 420 soil, they are quickly changing the standard for cannabis cultivation. To order the product, go to ideal420soil.com. Use promo code INTHELAB for an additional 20% off.
High up in the Rockies is beautiful Frisco, Colorado. Medical Marijuana of the Rockies is a medical marijuana center with compassion for Colorado's medical patients. Looking for great meds grown organically in soil? You've come to the right place. Medical Marijuana of the Rockies is just off I-70 at exit 203. Check them out at the web at www.mmrockies.com. Their ever-changing strain and clone selection is updated on the website daily. When making a trip to the mountains, no matter the season, stop by Medical Marijuana of the Rockies. Make sure you say you heard about them on iCannabis Radio. You can call 970-668-MEDS to get more information. Medical Marijuana of the Rockies, your mountain source for meds.
The National Cannabis Industry Association would like to thank its members who represent the leading professional businesses in America's emerging legal cannabis market. NCIA is the only organization that has unified legitimate cannabis business across the nation to fight for real reform in Washington, D.C. For more information or to make your business a member, visit us online at thecannabisindustry.org.
Thank God I didn't get that. Anyway, so we're talking about what's interesting, and I can't wait to see, what evolves. Like, clearly there are companies that are joining the bandwagon that are completely against cannabis, and I just want to see years to come, how that's gonna change. So you got a call from Dixie. And the man behind the phone said, "How'd you like to come and work in weed?" Or how did it go?
Sort of.
Probably a little more demure than that.
No, I'm just kidding.
A little bit, yeah.
First of all, he wouldn't sound like that, but I thought it'd be funny.
No, I was actually just looking to get back into the lab and do some cool research. Jobs are a little bit limited in Colorado as far as that, and I wasn't really satisfied just working in any old lab, streaking plates or something like that. It just doesn't really suit my personality. So I saw the ad for Dixie that didn't disclose Dixie, but I came in and I met with the general manager there and learned a little bit about what was going on with the company and how I could
did you know it was cannabis before you came?
I didn't. I
Okay.
did. It was one of the very first things disclosed to me. That
Yeah.
By the way,
So yeah, it was
The
like
odor
hi,
emanating
nice to
from the
meet you.
facility is usually your
it's
first
like,
in.
woo, do your employees smoke? Or no, I'm kidding.
It was very hi, nice to meet you. Do you know where you are?
Right.
But it was really cool. I immediately just struck me that there was so much to be done.
Oh, yeah.
There was so much to be learned. There was so much to be improved upon. There was so much discovery, which is what fuels me. I mean, I love
See, isn't
the
it great?
discovery, the innovation, the excitement. It's just such a dynamic place to be. So immediately I was intrigued and
Completely new skill set. I mean, not completely new because science is science, but
right, just a new area of focus more than anything
Sure.
else. I mean, instead of looking at maybe a biological system in space or something like that, it's just looking at discovering all the things that can be gained by cannabis, how it works in the body, what the products look like, how those can, be improved or re-innovated. And it was just so much to delve into immediately. So I was really excited and just went home and started digging through research. Yeah. And I think 2 days went by before I called again. I said, I think I have an idea.
And there is plenty of research out there. It's not exactly mainstream, but again, Shalene's skill sets or professional expertise, the characteristics that she has makes she naturally inquisitive, really is going to benefit our company, is benefiting our company, I'll be blunt, because she is able to peel back layers of the onion. She can collaborate collaborate with companies like CanLabs and others to really understand how we can make a product that is more, an innovative delivery system that is much more efficient, that isn't laden with calories or other unnecessary aspects, that we can take actually traditional off-the-shelf nutraceuticals or botanicals and mingle them with cannabis and make a much more powerful product platform is really sort of where we're headed with this. And again, it's just exciting to be able to attract somebody with her skill sets.
Sure. I mean, that's great. And he's absolutely right. We have been starving for just mature I don't want to say mature science, but more professionals that come from a profession and that are bringing it into this. There's usually a business person, but there hasn't been a ton of true scientists. And if they are, they're in the testing lab.
Right.
Let me ask you
They're
this.
not
I
in a
mean,
formulating
you're
lab.
obviously a successful business owner and a company, CanLabs, that's in the news often. Just recently today, the 5280 magazine was at Q for quality. The fact of the matter is that I would imagine that daily you're receiving inquiries from the testing community, and that's exciting. I mean, we still have the limitations as to what we can pay people because it's an
for sure.
industry that it's in its nascent stages. People like Shalene, fortunately, believe not only in the industry,
Right.
but certainly as a company. But you must be hearing from these people as well.
Absolutely. We get, I want to say on average, probably 3 or 4 a day.
Yeah.
I mean,
People want to come to Colorado.
They do. Well, one, because Colorado is the best state ever. And two, you have your people, your scientists that see, wow, this is going to be big science. They can see that. Or you have the people that are preparing. So I have people in high school that show an interest. They love science, and now they're reading all the science about cannabis. And it's like, oh, well, what can I major in? What should I, what kind of science is it? And it's very exciting because I truly believe that they will have, the universities will have probably a cannabis science degree. I bet you they would.
Yeah, and you now have institutions that have accredited, programs, educational seminars that you can get credit for. I've personally attended the DU Law School, a couple of symposiums they've had where law students can get credit to focus on cannabis, and it's incredibly interesting. I've spoken and I've also attended as part of the audience. It's fascinating what is going on because in addition to people that are interested in moving to Colorado, bare minimum take advantage of the liberties that the state has afforded us. There are whole segments of industries that are interested in exploring for financial gain, for monetary benefit, our industry that are mainstream, and so that's really exciting to be at the end of that sharp, pointy spear, which is where we've been for the last 3 years, Jennifer.
Yes.
To see that there's a much greater both social but also business acceptance.
Definitely, and so I'm just super excited that you decided to dive in and take a plunge with a industry that, frankly, is completely new to you.
Yes.
And of course, you take on some risk again because it is federally illegal. I know that when I started, I was scared to death. I mean, literally. I mean, I didn't ever think that I didn't have those dreams with the DEAs coming to get me out of bed, but certainly I pictured myself up on the stand. Yes, I test pot. You know what I mean? It's like, but then as 3.5 years later, it's like, well, actually 6 months later, I was like, okay, I'm in or I'm out. Like, so you just kind of go out there and put it out there. Now, how about your friends and family? What did they say? I'm curious. Well, where are you from?
I'm from Washington State,
So you are from Washington State. So, okay. A little more friendly there.
Right. My family, though, is highly conservative, very conservative people. And when I first made the call to tell them what I was doing, I was honestly a little bit nervous.
Sure.
Because I was excited and I knew all these things that I was just dying to do and explore, but I made the call and I said, oh, you never guess what? I got this great job, and started to tell them a little bit about it. And I talked to my dad first, of course, which is the most nerve-wracking thing to do.
Yeah.
But, I said I get to do all these great things. There's so many wonderful medicinal benefits, and I'm learning so much. And he said to me, I am so excited for you. I am so proud. And that's all he,
And your heart just crushed.
I just thought,
That's what I call a ringing endorsement.
right. I said,
Yeah,
I had
huge.
no idea he was even conscious of the benefits of marijuana.
Right.
I had no idea it was on his radar or ever had been.
Right.
And he was so proud. It was one of those really great moments. And then my mom was the same way, and she's even more conservative, and she just said, this is a great opportunity. You can do great things with this. And they've been wonderful. It was really awesome. So, and then my little cousin is a bio major in Seattle. He just graduated last year. And I recently spoke to my mom, and she said, are you guys coming to Washington ever? And I said, well, we'll see. And I said, why? What's going on? And she says, well, your cousin, he is so compassionate. All he wants to do is help people. He's not working in his field right now, but she said all he wants to do is help people, and he's trying to find a niche to do that.
Yeah.
And he said, ask her if they're coming here. I want to work with her so
awesome.
badly. This is what
that
I
or
want to
Can
do."
Labs.
So,
It's validating to receive support
Isn't
from
it?
a politician or from a state regulator or even a media representative. But when you get that type of validation from mom
your
and
parents.
dad, because I know your parents are supportive, Jennifer,
Yes.
and I was a little gun shy as well. It took a live TV interview on CNBC Squawk Box for me to confess to my father what I was
Really?
doing about 10 minutes before I went on television. And, similar to Shalene's experience, my father is all too supportive, where I get to hear from him almost on a daily basis about the things that he's learned about the cannabis plants.
Yep.
So,
That's
that's
so
very,
great,
very
though.
cool. I hadn't heard that story, Shalene. Thanks for sharing it.
Absolutely. It's just another piece of the puzzle where you see people you didn't expect.
That's right.
To be on board and supportive and ready for this to move forward, and just waiting for the next greatest thing to help people, the next more natural way to turn.
Right.
And it's just such an exciting time.
You got Sanjay Gupta, who's going to be the United States Surgeon General, apologizing to the American public for the disinformation or misinformation. That becomes an inflection point, and it's fascinating as, again, we're all riding this wave together to see how the industry is. We're talking about the United States has about 40+%, just under 40% of the U.S. population that lives in states that offer some form of medical cannabis or adult use. By likely 2016, we'll be approaching upwards of 70% of the U.S. population, if in fact
Really?
a minimum of 6 of these states legalize marijuana. And where is that tipping point? I mean, we'll probably be in an active dialogue with our federal government to talk about what we need to do as far as making, certainly we're seeing social change. We're certainly seeing legal change, but potentially political change at the federal level. I think we'll all be in the midst of that.
Think of how many jobs there would be.
Yeah,
Right.
well, we're seeing it every single week. Another face.
Yeah.
We had a new employee start today, which I was walking through, and I said to him, because we're taught to sort of interact with people that we don't recognize. And he's like, I'm the new
We're taught.
so-and-so. Well, it's a big facility. There's lots of people
I know.
there.
So let's get to that. How many people work there now?
We are rapidly approaching either what we'll call 40 full-time employees, either
Wow.
full-time employees or consultants. That's just within the Dixie family, if you will, not including some of the other portfolio companies that we own. But we are investing massively in the space, not only in the human capital, people like Shalene and others, but in the physical plant. And so I'm proud to report, although you've seen it, our previous building, which was state of the art by industry standards.
Sure. Yeah.
It was a facility, a legacy facility that pre-existed. We are literally taking a blank canvas and installing laboratory facilities, which Shalene will oversee, extraction facilities that will house our Apex supercritical CO2 extraction platforms. That is the only extraction methodology. We don't use any heavy metals, any butanes. Those, it's all CO2. Something that we're proud to talk about. Certainly, including the Can Labs brand, the mark, because we are certified by your company. But lastly, the investment in technology that is going to take products that have generally been considered, mom and pop saran wrap, the professional, the proverbial backpackers, into products that are manufactured under HACCP, which is a food handling protocol, considered, or GRAS, generally recognized as safe. And again, that's going to be under the direction and guise of Shalene overseeing our science and our laboratories. Incredibly exciting.
Well, let's get back to, let's talk about that and talk about the opportunity, because same thing with Can Labs. It's a rough road, and people are your biggest investment, and it's really hard to explain to people that sorry, we're not a startup, but we're still, people think that marijuana is printing money.
Get rich, yeah.
And the point is now it's not. And so you really have to, my staff believes in Steve and I, believes in the Can Labs brand, believes we're going in the right direction, and they took a chance with us. And, of course, we would love to pay top dollar, but the industry just can't, it can't bear it right now. So I did want to make that point too, because the people that apply, a lot of times both of my lab techs that have started internship. I mean, literally, they started an internship, and mainly to get to know them and make sure that they're fit, because how many people call and go, "Oh my God, I'd love to test your pot," or whatever, and they have no idea. They have no science skill set. They don't know. I think a lot of them think we just smoke it and then tell people how great it is.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much euphoria are you experiencing? I think that's actually how the industry started testing maybe 4 years ago, but it has evolved, thankfully.
Thankfully for the science.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So it's great that you took a chance, but as you can see, this is going to be, it's already an amazing industry, and just what we've gone through in the last 3.5, 4 years, it's amazing. People that I thought were top of the line are no longer here anymore, and we are getting more educated, more sophisticated, and there are it is no longer that you can start small. All of these states, you have to have liquidity and everything. So,
well, we found, I think, Jennifer, you and I in particular, having witnessed an incredible amount of MMJ roadkill. There's been over a 65% attrition rate here in the state of Colorado with respect to marijuana businesses. There's no shortcut. Even in recent weeks, we've seen some very public interaction with three-letter agencies. As difficult that is to admit as an entrepreneur or a business owner, it was needed potentially.
Sure.
And there's no shortcut. It should be a level playing field. Everybody should be held to the same standards with respect to regulatory compliance, investing in both the industry as well as a business. And I'm proud to see what our Marijuana Enforcement Division is doing. They're continuously growing, bringing on new people. They're checking the boxes and approving those businesses that should, and potentially rejecting those businesses that shouldn't be. They've had ample time, 3 years in some cases. We're seeing probably 3 times as many denials in the last quarter than we've seen in the previous 9. But it's coming to a head where we need to actually implement a traditional business environment that is fully licensed, just like you would gaming or the manufacturing of alcohol or the distribution of alcohol or the sale of alcohol. And that's incredibly important as we evolve into that adult use community.
Do you think that when prohibition was ending for alcohol and people were applying for their alcohol licenses and stuff, do you think that they, because sometimes, and especially at the beginning, felt like a drug dealer, like you were treated like you were scum of the earth, like, oh my God. And I'm just wondering if those people that applied for alcohol licenses, if it was kind of the same stigma, like, oh my God.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that December 5th, 1933, which was 80 years ago, a week and a few days. So again, on December 5th, 1933, Americans took their first legal drink with the 21st Amendment. 13 years of prohibition in the United States. If anybody's familiar with Boardwalk Empire, we know it was a challenging time. It's an HBO series that I'm personally fascinated with, but it was about the prohibition years and families like the Kennedys or the Gallows or the Seagrams of the world, the Bronfmans, really took advantage of that. And there are a lot of analogies, I think, made to that of alcohol prohibition to that of marijuana prohibition. I'll embrace many of them, but what it doesn't say is that predating December 5th, 1933, that they were pre-existing distilleries. They were pre-existing brands and ultimately retail outlets. And we all know that there's never been a nationally branded line of infused products like Dixie or a medical marijuana testing facility or scientists with Shalene's pedigree, her CV. And so it's really an industry that it's still in its nascent stages, but also, we don't have all the previous history to build on it. And so, to be blunt, the state is making up a lot of it as we go. We as industry people are making it up. And potentially scientists are making it up. But there's collaboration amongst lab and lab director, and that's really incredibly exciting, not only for me as a business owner, but for the listener, for that of a medical marijuana patient, but also that for an adult use consumer.
Right. And about that too, it's a lot of guesswork. It really is. One thing I can,
not
is
from the
dosing.
lab side though.
Well, no.
Right.
But as far as dosing, that's a lot of that is on you. I mean, we can give you a starting place. Right. I always preach 5 milligrams. I really do.
You can always add to it.
You can always add to it, but once, especially with edibles, once you go over, you're not coming back. I mean, it's there. Whereas smoking, vaping comes on, alleviates fast, but.
I'll brag on Shalene for a second because it was an outsider's perspective, somebody that doesn't have a strong relationship with cannabis. And as we all know, the industry demanded as much milligrams for as low dollar. And it's difficult to compete when all of your competitors are chasing that, if you will. And we, as a traditionally conservative organization led by me, who doesn't, again, have a strong relationship with marijuana, we had to continue to increase the milligrams. But you're right, there's a whole new segment of the community that, number one, probably doesn't even have relationship with marijuana, but potentially if they do, not through infused products, which is the single fastest growing segment of our industries.
Yes.
If you incorporate concentrates, which includes oils, like you mentioned, vaping. But it's incredibly important to have somebody's perspective like Shalene to educate. And so I believe Dixie will be leading this effort through our Marijuana 101 informational card that is both for a patient and for a consumer, both within the state and from outside, that when they arrive, they'll be able to access this information. Shalene has been instrumental, along with that of our marketing department, Lindsay and Christy, who you know well.
Yes.
And so for those novices, they'll be able to understand that better to start with 5 than 50, and sure as hell not 500, because you can always add to the experience. Because once you get on that train, it's difficult to get off.
Although you can't really.
We can actually even educate a consumer as to how to back off of that euphoria through drinking something as simple as a glass of milk or eating a chocolate bar.
CBD.
Yeah, CBD.
Yeah. So, of course, this was one good thing that the state did, and that was let people from out of town purchase, because then they'll be able to get that. Because do you think, let's say, you're coming to visit me, do you think I have the Dixie cards and I'm going to go, okay, now, Shalene, here's your cookie? And no, you're not. So that's why the state allowed, so those people could go to dispensaries and get educated. So I just hope that all the dispensaries carry your card. I was thinking about that a lot is and letting people know, please start with 5.
Yeah.
The only reason people are is 100 and 500 is because nobody has, unless you test, you don't have a true dose. And so for all those people, I have never tested anything that I've been brought, okay, not by the company, that has been 200, 300, 400. It's never even come close to that. So
Yeah, it's been challenging. Something that we not only test our own products, but we test competitors' products on occasion to verify and or validate. And unfortunately, it's disappointing, as you well know.
Yeah.
Establishing the appropriate testing protocols, again, which we continue to hone in on and improve, thanks in part to Shalene, to make sure that we're under manufacturing what we call under that GMP, that good manufacturing process, is going to further improve. But it'll also create a level of predictability amongst our product platforms, and ultimately that information will convey to the consumer, because just like you would a bottle of beer, 12 ounces, you know the desired effect, that with a bare aspirin, so too should you with a 12-ounce medicated Dixie Elixir 40 milligrams. You'll know what the experience is going to be. And that's incredibly important as this industry is evolving, again, thanks in part to what you guys do.
And that's consistent too.
Yeah.
People,
Consistency.
when I first got into this, it was so discouraging. I had a patient, well, I always call her my patient, but her name was Fran, and she was 69, and she was the cutest little thing, and she didn't like to get high, but she found out that it just fit her so well, the marijuana, and especially if she could dose it. But it's like I'd find her a product she loved, and then they would be out of business, or it wouldn't be. It's not consistent.
Yeah. I think, on the MIPS side, the marijuana-infused product side, there was 317 MIPS in the state of Colorado. And you probably know better than me, but I'm guessing there's probably less than 20 that have any brand recognition, and probably less than 5 that manufacture more than 3 specific or unique products.
Yes.
Today, Dixie has 11 delivery systems or product platforms representing about just under 90 on January 1st, thanks in part to Shalene's formulations. We'll be implementing a couple of new product lines, which will include our connoisseur grade smoking extracts, Dixie Prime. That's a little bit of a tease. Dixie Prime Pure, thanks in part to Shalene's efforts.
Very cool.
So these are product platforms that I think consumers and patients alike will be able to embrace, and ideally, the Dixie brand will become synonymous with that of consistency, accurate dosing, and then last but not certainly least is the appropriate labeling and packaging that is child-proof and tamper-resistant. It is so incredibly important as these products become mainstream, just like you would alcohol, just like you would tobacco, just like you would opiates, or certainly firearms here in the state of Colorado, is to make sure there's the appropriate protection to protect those that are not, these products are not designed for. Again, I think you'll see Dixie leading the way in 2014 as you enter into some of these RMCs, these recreational marijuana centers.
And did they decide on a common logo to put on that says, what is it?
It is the Marijuana Enforcement Division launched their new mark last Tuesday evening.
Oh,
and so
that's it. I
1
saw
quarter
that.
inch by 1 quarter inch. It's the state emblem that designates that this is a marijuana product. And so all of your packaging will have to incorporate this in some form, in addition to the 18 lines of copy to suggest that it has or has not been tested for solvents, for microbials, for other things, all of which we already do.
Right. So if it's not tested, they just have to put this product until it's mandated. This product is not tested for health and safety
That's
or
correct.
dosing.
Yeah.
Okay.
The regulatory language has expanded significantly.
Well, and we tried to help with that. So right now, our clients will have a page on the Can Labs, and you will be able to download a QR code and put it on any of your stuff. And that QR code will go back to your customer page on Can Labs, so they can get on. So hopefully maybe down the future that would be acceptable versus having to have it all worded. But
Lot
some
of
people don't have
information.
smartphones. Yeah.
A lot of information to be incorporated.
A ton.
One of my fellow members at the medical marijuana industry group brought it out, and it was on an 8.5 by 11 page, and it was standard font size 12 or 14, and it literally took up 3/4 of a page of all the regulatory language. Now, a lot of this you can do in an accordion label, or you can even reference some of it on exterior packaging. Ultimately, just like any other product, you should be able to reference this on your website, and having those QR codes or whatever some link back is to more information is always going to be incredibly valuable.
Because then that's real time. It's even better than putting it on the label.
Very
you know
much so.
exactly when the test was and everything like that.
Jennifer, we both know that the only thing, and Shalene is starting to embrace this, but the only thing that is consistent is change in this industry.
Who moved my cheese? Remember when that book came out?
I have it on
now
my desk.
Everybody needs to have who moved my cheese.
I love that you know that, Jennifer. That says volumes about you.
Absolutely. Yeah, Jen had a little problem with change for a little bit in her early 20s, but she adapted.
Oh, yeah. The industry is not good.
Isn't it? I know.
Can't
You're like,
embrace
okay, do
change.
this. And then, okay, sorry. I know I told you guys to do this, but we need to do that.
And you just spend $10,000 associated with
or
that
$40,000.
decision. Right.
Somebody just spent $40,000 on packaging, and the state won't accept it.
Oh, I read about that.
So hopefully they can return it. But I think child-proof packaging is important too. I know that in the task force groups, it was awful. But at some point, it's like, okay, you need to parent your child too. It all should be locked up, but you really have to be a good parent.
Right.
Evidently, I'm not sure. I don't have kids, but I certainly would not leave my stuff out, and especially since, it is candy and stuff like that. What I do not tolerate is one company out of Colorado Springs that completely takes a chocolate bar and spoofs it.
Yeah, I've seen these. And
I hope they get shut down for that. It's very disturbing.
I think you'll see state regulators will be a little more proactive, and now that we have true rules, we can embrace specific. You can cite infractions if you're not appropriately labeled or packaged.
Oh, that's nice.
And it's been nice. It's been very challenging, as we both know, that testing of medical marijuana has never been mandated. And so how do you determine whether, in fact, this product has 500 active milligrams? Just because it's said, unfortunately, we know that that's typically not the case. And so the playing field will be leveled. And then formulators will need to be able to compete with people like Shalene, who have the technical expertise for precise dosage, validated by a third party like Can Labs, and you know that we even have peer testing done outside of your lab to ensure that your analytics are right. And fortunately, spot on, they generally come back that way. And so it's incredibly important to make sure that we set up those appropriate protocols, what we call trust but verify. Well,
and you know how hard it is to get. Like when you guys do usually something special for the Cannabis Cup, and you usually do a parody of 420 or something like that. You know how hard it is to get that many milligrams in something.
Yeah.
Okay. Really tough. So for people just to come out and sling that all day is like, no.
Well, and again, based on the scale in which Shalene manufactures, we know the price of a milligram. And if it says 500 milligrams, but yet you're retailing it for $6, which probably means you're wholesaling it for $3, I don't know how you lose 50 cents on the dollar and make it up in volume. So we both know that it's just a function of gaming the system, and those days are over.
Well, and they cut corner, and it's probably it probably has butane and propane, and because I can tell you what, people can't do appropriate extractions for as fast as they do now. I can tell you that. There's no way.
Yeah. Well, we know that, Shalene, with backlog, don't we?
We do. And I think it's all just part of legitimizing the industry.
Right.
I mean, not
educating
just
too,
in
yeah.
Colorado, not with cannabis connoisseurs, but in the scientific community. I think the responsibility lies on the parent. It relies on the company that manufactures. It relies on the testing facility. You have to have a predictable, trustworthy product out there, first of all, to advertise and to have a legitimate business. You have to have legitimate labs, and then you have to promote education and responsibility in the user as well for their children, their families, their education of the plant as well. So all of that together just compounds the legitimacy of the industry in my book.
Agreed.
Well, tell me about this new facility. And more importantly, how excited are you that you're not going to have to, that you're going to grow your own?
Yes.
Come on. That's got to be huge.
It's a massive data point for the company because I have shaken a lot of babies and kissed a few hands, or is it the verse? I guess shaking hands, kissing babies. Gaining access to raw plant material has been incredibly challenging as the demand continues to increase. But I'm proud to say that Dixie will be cultivating its own cannabis, both for medical and recreational use. We're very pleased to see the new production caps on cannabis. They've been increased exponentially for retailers as well as infused products manufacturers in preparation for adult use. And so being able to truly control the complete supply chain, again, something that Shalene has really been hammering home. And so to be able to control the plant really from seed all the way to that of sale is going to be incredibly important. Our demands for cultivation are dramatically different from that of a retail.
Sure.
We're not dealing with connoisseur cannabis.
Pretty.
We're dealing with, I
like it to look pretty.
Shalene hates marijuana plants. She just destroys them.
Just
1,100
kidding.
pounds per square inch in her CO2
hacking.
machines.
Yeah, well,
she
you
doesn't
gotta.
even let them mature. But the fact of the matter is, it's going to be incredibly exciting. We will certainly have you. Maybe we'll even do a live remote.
That'd be great.
Because part of the facility, which will be all in once it's mezzanine, just under 50,000 square feet.
Unbelievable.
is
And I'm
going to-
touting my 2,000. Woo!
Right.
50,000. Hey, you know
It's
what?
all relative.
It is relative.
But included in this will be an exhibit hall where we'll bring cannabis entrepreneurs from all over the world. We hear from them every single day, national and international journalists, so they can see what we call the car wash effect. And so in every aspect of our facility, you will be able to peer in into the facility with our invitation, of course,
Wow.
to our extraction, to our labs, to our production, of course, to our commercial cultivations facilities. And so it's expensive, it's time consuming, and we're going to do it, and we're going to do it right. But in early 2014, before the end of the first quarter, we'll be ready for prime time, and we'll certainly have you out.
Oh, I cannot wait. I'm so excited. I know, listen, you couldn't give away trim
Yeah.
3.5 years ago.
Right.
Could not give it away. And
Yeah.
now it is pure gold due to all these cool extraction machines and getting educated about the plant. You can use everything, right?
That's correct.
Stems, everything.
Yeah, there is no part of the plant, pardon the pun, but literally we extract every dollar and cent out of cannabis sativa. And we're helping our fellow MMC owners to understand the value of that because the plant has so many redeeming qualities. There's so many unique ways in which you can ingest or relate to cannabis. And that's providing a larger market that is more mainstream. Most people understand that smoking anything is bad for you, certainly in a very healthy, active lifestyle community like Colorado.
Right.
And so, hence, infused products are becoming quite the rage here certainly in the city and county of Denver.
They will, and I'm still waiting for my special med with THCV because it's an appetite suppressent. Couple of energy.
Shalene, hint, hint.
Couple of energy boosts, hint, hint, and a little teeny liquid.
Oh.
Like your tonic, but I
Yeah.
want some THCV. And now that we test for it and got a standard for it, hopefully you might find some because now Can Labs tests for 9 cannabinoids.
Okay.
So, unfortunately, a lot of people lost their CBD genetics because it was ugly, it was low yielding, and it didn't get people high. So they got rid of it, and they should have got it tested.
Yeah. Right.
But there are still plenty of things, and also with that, I need it fast acting in the first 5 minutes.
Okay.
You better be
Not
taking
much.
notes, Shalene.
But
Be on the radar.
Yes,
absolutely, I'm sure. Yeah, anybody would appreciate it. But we're just on the forefront of so many great delivery systems too. I mean, there's a lot to be desired, but infused products are definitely the future. Because if you don't smoke, you won't smoke,
Yeah.
and you shouldn't smoke.
No, you
know,
shouldn't. You're absolutely right.
You really shouldn't. Unfortunately, I think just that's their relationship with cannabis.
Well, in the state of
So-
Colorado, I mean, as an out-of-state visitor, there's no real legal place in which to smoke marijuana unless you're staying in a private residence. I mean, we're happy to hear that now you can smoke in your backyard just like you can consume alcohol or cigarettes or even on your front porch in plain sight. But for out-of-towners, infused products, I think, is going to be an excellent solution in which to embrace cannabis. And we're incredibly excited about that since we're well positioned to feed that demand.
Right.
That's so exciting. So what was I don't want to say the hardest, but what was something that you learned that you had absolutely no idea? Like you were like, really? Learning all this stuff about cannabis.
Wow. Well, let me just say I don't have a deep relationship with cannabis.
Right.
It was never something I did recreationally. It just wasn't
Yeah.
my thing, you know.
Right.
We all have something we enjoy, and that wasn't it when I was young. But I have had to learn so much in such a small amount of time. I think that's probably both the challenge as well as the excitement of it for me. And I wouldn't say that anything's been difficult, because it's been more kind of pleasant surprises and like, oh my gosh, I had no idea moments than anything else. I think it's just the bulk of information that's out there, and from an outsider's perspective, sorting through that and finding what's science and what is, I don't know, what I'd call kitchen sink science, something of that nature, and really sussing out the differences and taking what's valuable from both, because there are definitely, there's valuable information from people that have been doing this at home and have had this relationship for years. They have great wealth of knowledge as well, but being able to find a marriage between those two and come up with good information and exciting things to move forward with has just been.
And then somebody from the outside
Right.
looking in, though,
Yeah.
that is
We all-
so beneficial.
We all approach this relationship or this business through our own lens, right? And it's been really rewarding to see, again, people like Shalene and other people that we're hiring that are proud or not embarrassed to admit that they don't have a strong relationship with plant, but in a very short period of time, even as early as when they hear that we're interested in employing them, that they go out and do the research and they see that there's true medicinal benefits. We don't pass judgment on, we serve two masters, both the medical marijuana community as well as the adult use community. We don't call it recreational. Certainly that's what the state calls it, because whether you're there to medicate, whether you're there to recreate, or just create a new level of wellness in your life through marijuana as opposed to tobacco products or alcohol products, we're all for that. And so it's neat to see, from my perspective as an owner, 3.5 years into it, because I went through those iterations. I evolved my relationship with marijuana to say, wow, this is really helping people, unless there's a bunch of people out there spoofing me. Because every single day, just like you do, Jennifer, we hear from them in some form or fashion. On occasion, there's disappointment. We address it proactively and ideally learn from it. But, we have a very, very strong approval rating because the products are helping people at best, and at worst, just creating a new level of wellness.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, mind-body, too.
Yeah,
a lot of it
mind-body.
is mind-body.
Yeah. Everybody's got an idea for a product. Shalene, now we refer them to Shalene. I don't have to hear from them anymore.
Well, I'll tell you, what do we got?
We're there.
Oh, we are. Okay, so I'll end with this cool story. This was fascinating. So my business partner, Steve's, a friend of his, a young lady that is an author, and her business is her brand. And she has a severe form of narcolepsy, to where, it's a form of narcolepsy, but it's the opposite. She does not get that deep REM sleep that actually rejuvenates your body.
Right.
So you can imagine if you never sleep.
Oh, yeah.
And it's horrible. And she
Frazzled.
has to take these drugs that if your house burns down, you're not getting up.
Getting up, yeah.
Like it is
Cannabis
horrible.
is her friend.
So Steve set her up with Dr. Shackelford.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Shackelford had never talked to anybody ever with this. And so they started her off. She called Steve like crying, saying, it changed my life.
Yeah.
My life. And she takes candies before she goes to bed. And it's just stuff like that you would never even think about, but just simple stuff like that, where she's taking these drugs that who knows what else they're doing to your body.
Sure.
And you could die.
Right.
So, but anyway, it's stories like that you'll keep hearing that just make you go home and go, God, I just feel so proud of what I'm doing.
Agreed.
Right.
Agreed.
So, but thank you so much. We didn't even break, so I'll have to set up for my sponsors next time. But thank you guys so much. I will take you up on that offer, and I'm sure that hopefully we could set up remotely. That would be really cool.
Well, Jennifer, thank you for all you
Really
and
cool.
Steve and the rest of your team do at Can
You
Labs
bet.
for the industry, but certainly for our company. We're very grateful. It's honored to do business with Can Labs, and we look forward to a prosperous 2014 together.
Thank you so much. I do too. And Shalene, thank you so much.
Thank you
Thanks
for
coming
having
in.
me. Absolutely.
You bet. All right. See you next week.